Hey folks, it's Kim from Raven Kim Woodwinds, and I'd love to welcome you all to another video, and also to the start of another fantastic new year, 2024. This is going to be my first video of this year, and to make it special, I'd love to talk about an instrument that's near and dear to my heart. This is an instrument called the Kalaleng or the Tongali. It's a kind of nose flute you can find north of the Philippines in the Cordillera regions, where you can find various ethno-linguistic groups such as the Ifugao and the Bontoc people. Now, this is one of their most famous instruments, featuring 3-finger holes in the front, a thumb hole in the back, quite famously with beautiful etchings or engravings that you can find on the surface of the flutes, featuring patterns such as snakeskin and images of mountains and rice fields. These instruments are crafted from long-node bamboo. Despite being almost 2 feet long, these are actually individual sections of nodes. And the node itself is actually integrated into the sound production method employed by the instrument. While the bell end of the instrument is left open, the node is kept on the other end and a small hole is burned through it. Now, the function of this small hole is to facilitate the creation of sound. Now, you hold your nose against that hole, and then you blow across it. The act of splitting that air creates vibration and ultimately the production of sound. It's not so different with how sound is made using modern transverse flutes. Except with the small embouchure and the gentle air that comes from your nostrils, it produces a very delicate and gentle sound. Now, the gentle, soothing sound of these instruments make them quite appropriate for intimate settings such as the practice of courting a loved one or sharing music with family, which is where usually you would find these instruments being played. Now, I'm going to show you guys some of the Kalaleng or Tongali in my collection. The first ones that you've seen are from a couple of instruments acquired by my parents from an antique store in Baguio. They feature the said traditional intricate etching and are quite playable. Now, these next ones aren't as intricate as those, but are still also quite playable. And I acquired these from craftsmen and musicians who were housed at Tam-awan Village in Baguio City. Now, Tam-awan Village is sort of like a living museum you can visit in Baguio City that condenses arts and culture all across the Cordilleras into this one space. And if I were to suggest to someone who wants to learn more about these instruments, this would be to visit Tam-awan Village. If you're lucky enough, you might encounter a musician playing these instruments or see one of these very playable instruments in the gift shop. They're not quite as intricate as the more traditional forms of the instrument, but they're still very well playable. And instead of having the artwork etched onto the instrument, they're burned, which actually lends to a different kind of modern rustic charm to it. I think this one is actually the best playing one in my collection. Now, if you're visiting up north, one of the biggest tourist hotspots there is Baguio City, and you might actually find some simpler versions of the instruments in local markets and tourist shops. Now, they aren't quite as playable as these more traditional forms of the instrument, but they are still playable. They're quite a bit smaller than the traditional form of the instrument, and as a result of that and the bore to length ratio, they usually only play 1 octave. Regardless, they're still a great way to introduce yourself to a very unique musical tradition. It's still a very beautiful sound, and in fact, I really like this one for its small size because I can fit it in a backpack. Now, I'm probably going to get this question in the comments, so I figured I should address it. And that question is, why would you play it with your nose, and why not with your mouth like more well-known forms of the instrument, of other flutes? There are 3 possibilities that I can think of. The first one is I think the construction method simply allows it to be easily played by the nose instead of the mouth, without having to worry about complex construction methods that would involve cutting a well-shaped embouchure or a fipple. Another reason I can think of is because this particular sound production method creates a soft, gentle, and sweet sound that produces a unique timbre you can't get from other forms of flutes. And the last one is a bit of a stretch, but I think is a possibility, is to allow the player to chew betel nut while playing. Now, betel nut chewing is quite popular in the Cordilleras. It's locally known as nganga. And for those who don't know, betel nut is a stimulant, sort of like caffeine or nicotine, and it's quite popularly consumed in that northern region of the Philippines. Alright, I'm going to start talking less and I'm going to start playing more. I hope you enjoy the music of the Kalaleng. I'm going to intercut some clips of the flutes up close so you can appreciate the artwork much more. And I'll leave you with that. Have a nice day and happy listening.